Baby Fatima Zahra is basically the nucleus of Ahl Qisa. When you hear the event of Qisa, the mantle, the five holy figures, if there is anyone among the five of them who was directly related to each of others there, it was only Fatima Zahra. Ali was related to Rasulullah through his father. Hassan and Hussain are related to Rasulullah through their mother. It was only Fatima who is there in the middle. She is directly the daughter of the Prophet. She is directly related to Ali as the wife. And she is directly related to Hassan and Hussain as the mother. And so she becomes basically that markaz, the nucleus and the center of the Ahlul Bayt. And keeping that in mind, this importance of family. What does Ahlul Bayt mean? Ahlul Bayt means the household of the members of the household of the Prophet, the family of the Prophet. Our mazhab, our path in Islam is the path of the family. And so for us, when we talk about family life, this is a very, not only an important issue, but it's also linked to our own identity. When you look at the family life in Islam, you know, there are two famous family models. One is what is known as the extended family or the joint family system, where you have 2 or 3 generations with their, children all under the same roof. Or you have the modern Western system, which is known as the nuclear family or the separate family system, where it's only the couple and their children living separately. Islam doesn't go on this side or that side. Islam has its own perspective right in the middle. And just to simplify it, I will say, Islam basically prefers what is known as the semi-attached family system. I'm using this term from the real estate industry. We can say semi-detached, but no, let's be positive. Semi-attached. So there is separation, but there is also attachment. And this is what Islam basically talks about. So, the nuclear family system is a model that Islam would prefer with great emphasis on what is known as Silatul Rahim. What is Silatul Rahim? Silatul Rahim means, making the close ones, the ties of relationship more closer and stronger. Maintaining the ties of relationship with all its commitments, kindness and helping one another, be concern for one another. And so we see that, for example, if you look at the extended family system, they are all under the same roof. 2, 3, 4 generations. But their hearts are not united. They are divided. Because of also the way the lifestyle is in the joint family system. When you come to the purely nuclear family system, in the Western style, then you will see that, their households are separate, even their hearts are separate. Mother's Day, yeah, Salaam Alaikum, how are you? Father's Day, a phone call. But that attachment is not that there on that level. And this is what Islam says, that you can have your household separate, but your heart should be all united and together. And so Islam basically promotes a middle path, nuclear family model with a strong emphasis on Silatul Rahim, maintaining the ties of those who are related to you. Because if you don't maintain that, the ties, then what happens to the family, nuclear family? Gradually self-centeredness or hyper-individualism comes in. And when that comes in, then there is delinking of the nuclear family, with those who are related to them. And when I use the word de-linking here, this is opposite of Silatul Rahim. It is known as Qata'ur Rahim, which means severing the ties with those who are related to you. In Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about Silatul Rahim more than He talks about namaz. In Quran, Allah condemns Qita'ur Rahim more than any other things there. And remember, Quran doesn't talk about how to do the namaz. The command of salat is there in Quran, but it doesn't tell you stand up, do takbir, say this surah, then go to ruku, then get up and say this and go into sajda, and this is how you should do sajda. How many rakat are there? There is nothing there. When it comes to this family life, especially maintaining this concept of nuclear family with this strong sense of silatul rahim, you have an ayat there where you are told, laysa haraj, an ayat goes on, wala ala anfusikum an ta'kulu. There is no problem on you if you eat from following houses. There are 11 houses listed here. Number 1, buyutikum, your house. Of course, it's a given. But Allah just wants to make sure everything is there. So He starts with your own house. Number 2, buyut abaikum, your father's house. Buyut ummahatikum, your mother's house. Aw buyutu akhwanikum, your brother's house. Aw buyuti akhawatikum, your sister's home. Aw buyutu amamikum, your uncle's home. Aw buyutu ammatikum, your aunt's house. Aw buyutu akhwalikum, your uncle from the mother side, mamu, your mama's house. Aw buyutu khalatikum, your aunt from the mother side, her house. Aw ma malaktum mafatihuhu, or a house whose keys has been given to you temporarily. A friend of you or somebody who is going on vacation, he says, can you take care of my house? Go there once in a day, or once in a week. You go in there, you are thirsty or hungry, open the fridge and you see food is there. Do you have to call your friend on vacation, can I eat this? No, this ayat says you can eat. Because you have the keys to the house, but only the fridge, not anywhere else. The issue is about eating. And 11th, last one, aw sadiqukum, your friend's home. But then you have to figure out who is a friend. The word sadiq in Arabic, probably there is related to this issue of sidq. Somebody whom you consider to be a true friend. Not somebody who says, Assalamu alaikum in masjid only. No. So this is where we see, if you look at this list here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is basically giving us the list of 8 relatives whose houses are separate from one another. Your house, your father's home. Your house, your mother's home. Your house, your brother's home. Your sister, your uncles, your aunts. It means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying there is no problem if you have separate homes. But then what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does in this ayat is that He's taking away the formality in visiting and maintaining this relationship between one another. You can go there without any, formality. Of course, it's part of good manners to give a call at least that I'm coming. Otherwise, you might, go all the way there and see nobody's there. Or if you come unannounced, don't expect biryani. You might just get chai and biscuit. And so Silatul Rahim works both ways. Means those who are related to you should be welcoming, even if you come unannounced. And Silatul Rahim on your part would be that you don't expect, special, service there at that time. Formalities there are then gone. For example, if you give charity, sadaqah, What is the number of reward you get? Allah in the Quran has promised, whatever good thing you do, I'll multiply the reward 10 times. Man ja'a bil hasana, whoever comes with a good deed, I will reward him 10 times. So you give in charity, Allah will reward you 10 times. Something even about sadaqah is when you give a loan, interest-free loan to somebody who needs that. That is valued even more than, sadaqah and charity. And the reward for that would be 18 times, not 10 times. When you help your brethren in faith, there the reward would be 20 times. But when you maintain silatul rahim, you maintain the ties with those who are related to you, the reward is multiplied 24 times. And this is how the Prophet is saying that, you have to realize silatul rahim is considered to be a very important issue in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even our baby Fatima Zahra salawatullah alayha, in a segment in Khutbah Fadakiyya, where she has a section where she talks about the rationale behind some of the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, she says, وَصِلَةُ الرَّحَامِ مَنْسَأَةً فِي الْعُمْرِ وَمَنْمَاتًا لِلْعَدَدِ. She says, maintaining your ties with those who are related to you, number one, it prolongs your life. Maybe Malakul Maut was given, the information that so-and-so will live for 40 years, but then there was a provision there. Unless he does Silatul Rahim, then he will be living for 60 years. So the life can prolong, based on Silatul Rahim. And even the number of, family members and the increase in blessing is also part of the reward in the words of Fatima Zahra salawatullah. Salawat padhne ek baar aur. Even in her life, after the marriage with Amir al-Mu'mineen, they didn't live in the house of the Prophet. They had their separate house, of course, which was next door to Rasulullah. But even then, although their houses were separate, but their silatul rahim, that, exercising this, maintaining of the ties, was very frequent and very obvious for us in history when you look at the example. The famous story that we recite, Hadith Kisa. Hadith Kisa is actually the example of how to maintain your ties. I am not sure about the context of the beginning of the story there in Hadith Kisa. Whether the Prophet had come from a journey or he was in town. But right in the beginning, the Prophet comes in and what does he say? Inni ajidu fi badani dhu'fan. I feel weakness or I'm tired. Ya Rasulullah, if you're tired, mashallah, Allah has given you so many wives. And you live just next door. At least some of them were considerate and very, obedient to Rasulullah. They used to serve him, willingly, out of their own love for him. But Rasulullah decides not to go to his home. He goes next door to the house of his daughter. It's not that he sends somebody, go and ask Ali, am I allowed to come now? Because now you are in charge of that house. No. He comes in. There was nobody there other than Fatima. And he says, Inni ajidu fi badani dhu'fan. Lies down. Bibi Fatima Zahra comes in. And basically, this is where we see that, فَأَتَيْتُهُ, where she says, Then I came to him بالكساء اليماني فغطيته به, and I covered him with that, kisa, the mantle. And then you see this expression of Silatul Rahim, not only between the father and the daughter. The grandsons come, one after another. Look at the akhlaq that we see there, or the wordings which have been used. Ya Ammar, because now Rasulullah was covered fully. They couldn't see him. But both of them, at their own times, when they came in, they say, Ya Ummah, inni ashummu indaki rahiyatan tayyiba, ka'annaha rahiyatu jaddi Rasulillah. They oh my mother. It seems that I am able to sense the fragrance of the scent of a very good one, which looks like the scent of my grandfather. I can smell him. I can feel his presence. And this is where the mother says, yes, he is there under the kisa. And then, Hassan goes underneath that. Hussain also goes in that kisa. And then Amir al-Mu'minin comes in. And finally, Bibi Fatima al-Zahra comes in and Rasulullah does the dua. And this is where the ayat of Tathir is revealed at that time. Salawat padhne ek baar aap. And the point is that their houses were separate, but their hearts were united. And that is the example that we have to keep in mind whenever we do the recitation or we hear the hadith kisa. It's not only for sawab. This is the problem. Sometimes we say, okay, let's recite it, sawab milega. Especially the last dua at the end, talks about the barakat of the malaika for those who are reciting and listening to that gathering, to the hadith kisa. Yes, this is good. But it is a constant, message given to us in our mahfil, in our celebrations, in our marriage ceremonies, when hadith kisa is recited, that remember hadith kisa is a constant message of maintaining the ties that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created among us. Salawat.